Apollo Creed is a fucking dick. And I'm gonna explain why. How's it going, everybody? Too High might still be watching. This is Rock's Thoughts. I'm your host, Rox. And we're gonna be talking about the Rocky Balboa franchise. More specifically, we're gonna be talking about Apollo Creed. So, Apollo Creed is, for part 1 and part 2 of the Rocky films, or the first movie and second movie, the overarching antagonist for those two films. And best friend to Rocky Balboa in the third film and fourth. Yeah, he's a dick. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to defend why this is the biggest asshole in the Rocky film franchise. No one even comes close. You know, for anyone who has seen the Rocky movies, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what about Paulie? Paulie's a pretty big dick. Now, the thing with Paulie, yeah, he's an asshole. He's got your back no matter what. There's numerous times in the films where he didn't have any issue helping Rocky. So, what I mean by that is, there was a point in the second movie, Rocky and Adrian needed money. Well, he goes up to to Paulie, and Rocky tells him, hey, you want to buy this car? Train of thought. Paulie tells him, I thought you liked this car. And one of the very first things after that, he tells Rocky, his brother-in-law, this quote-unquote huge piece of shit, if you need a handout, I'll give you a handout. First thing, not even trying to talk shit to him, because Paulie's a shit talker, don't get me wrong. Paulie will talk shit to you, he don't care who you are. He'll come up to you in your face and say, hey, you a bitch. That's what Paulie is. He don't care if you're going to knock his ass out. He'll take it. But he tells Rocky, if you need a handout, I'll give you a handout. Not even talking bad to this man, just saying, hey, I've got you. Of course, Rocky declines, and Paulie ends up buying the car and ends up taking care of the payments. But then, after that, not being rude, not being, any type of antagonistic, like a lot of people think he is, he tells Rocky, hey, if you and my sister need the car, just ask. Paulie's a damn good friend, even though, yeah, he's a dick. It's a bit rocky with him. No pun intended. But then you get to the third movie, when Rocky ends up getting in a fight with, his name, it was Thunderlips, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan. Paulie's pissed at Rocky at the moment because Rocky's doing a lot better. Rocky ends up giving Paulie a job. Yeah, Paulie got drunk, got arrested, shit happened. The drunk mindset, which, not defending him, that was, it's kind of fucked up to do some of the things he did. But while Rocky is in that ring, and he is being choked by this over 7-foot giant of a man, this beast of a human being, being held there, strangled, before Rocky even can say, Paulie, help, Paulie is in that ring with a wooden chair, ready to be, you let him go. And he smacks Thunderlips in the back with that chair. And he drops Rocky, turns to Paulie. Paulie doesn't back away. Nah, you fucked with Rocky, you fuck with me. He tells him, I don't sweat you. Let's go. And then, he got his shit rocked, but he's still defending him. And then in Rocky 4, Rocky ends up having a talk with I keep mixing that up, don't I? With Paulie during his fight with Ivan Drago. And Paulie tells him, if I could step out of my skin and be anybody, I'd want to be you. I don't talk like this. But man, I love you, man. That's his brother. That is the love of a damn brother. Other people might point at Adrian as not really being a dick or an asshole, but more of like annoying. And I say to that, what the fuck is wrong with you? This woman is terrified out of her mind that her husband's gonna get killed in the ring. And people always talk bad about Adrian. She's annoying. She needs to just let Rocky fight. I've talked to people who've watched the movies who don't like Adrian. And the fact is, if you put yourself in that perspective of this woman, your husband, who's already gotten the crap beat out of him by Apollo Creed, has a chance of going blind. He's going blind in one eye. basically can't see nothing in that eye, whichever eye it was. This woman is terrified something's going to go wrong to her husband. She loves this man. When it comes to when he goes to fight Ivan Drago, she doesn't want him to fight. She even tells him, you heard what the news said, it's suicide. He will kill you. Rocky don't care. But this is a wife that loves her husband. She loves him more than anything. So you can't get mad at her for that. And then I have very few people that have mentioned Mick. Now, we're just mentioning the people that are in Rocky's life. We're not talking about Ivan Drago because, he's the asshole that did kill Apollo. Even though things kind of got worked out in the Creed movies. And then we're not talking about Clubber Lang, who ends up beating Rocky, quote unquote, killed Mick. That's a bit of a gray area for the whole killing Mick thing. But Mick is a bit of a dick to Rocky. He ain't the biggest dick, but you can't give him a pass. Because, he insults Rocky in the first film, and then when he finally shows up to help Rocky, because Rocky's getting his title match against Apollo Creed, Mick's like, hey, I want to train you, I want to take care, I want to be your manager. And Rocky rightfully calls him out. Well, where were you when I needed you all these years ago? I needed your help then. Where were you? And they said, well, if you needed help, why didn't you ask? It's like, I did ask, you just never heard nothing. But even though Mick had his issues, he loved Rocky like Rocky was his son. In his will, he literally left Rocky his gym. He gave Rocky one of the only things he valued, which was a little cufflink that he got from, I think it was Rocky Marciano. He says the other one he gave to some bum. But all these people can't compare just how much of a horrible, just worthless pile of shit Apollo Creed is. Now, I'm not knocking Carl Weathers. Phenomenal actor. Dude is amazing. Apollo Creed, in my opinion, was very well acted. I like Apollo, even though he's a dick. Carl Weathers, may he rest in peace, was just an amazing actor. But when you really come down and think about it, Apollo Creed is just an asshole. He ends up fighting Rocky in the first movie. Doesn't think too much of it. Gets his ass put on the ground. Gets back up. The fight ends up being a draw. Well, Apollo won. It's a split decision draw. But Apollo won. The second film, Rocky is retired. Apollo says, no, I want to fight you again. But Apollo is the same person who told him, hey, there's not going to be a rematch. But now you want to fight him again because your pride got hurt? Okay, that's understandable. But you don't got to go out there and belittle this man. His managers even tell him about that because he tries to humiliate Rocky to get Rocky to fight him again because he wants that rematch more than anything to prove that he's better, to prove he's the best, to prove that it was just a fluke. And like I said, his managers call him out saying, hey, if you try this humiliation tactic, you're setting yourself up as the bad guy. And he's like, okay, get him in the ring. Let's go. And eventually, when Rocky finally does decide to fight him, Apollo loses. All right, cool, we're done. This dick is done. Okay. But it's understandable that he is upset. And then you get to Rocky 3. Oh boy. In Rocky 3, Mick dies. It's the things that happened. He was pushed by Clubber Lang, but Mick was already having heart issues. You can't exactly put all the blame on Clubber Lang. Apollo shows up and he tells Rocky, I want to train you. I want to train you. And Rocky tells him, like, well, why? And he says, well, first off, I could turn this to a bigger gate than yours and the one we had. We both, heaven knows, I'm okay with big numbers. All right, well, he's admitting he's doing that for the money, first off. But then after this, so you're gonna make millions off of this fight. You're making all this money off of helping Rocky. It's like, hey, he beat me, I'ma train him. Making a bunch of money for that. But then he gets the nerve to tell Rocky, once we're done with this, you owe me a favor. So the money's not good enough. You're making millions off of this, and you just need something else. All right, cool. And what was that favor? After everything is said and done, after Rocky beats Clubber Lang, after everything is done with him being trained by Apollo, what does Apollo do? He wants to fight Rocky. Because he still hasn't let that issue of him getting his ass whooped go. And he even tells Rocky, you beat me by 1 second. 1 second is very hard for a man of my intelligence to accept. A man of your intelligence, you just sound like an asshole. And of course, allegedly, he beats Rocky in that fight. So you did all of this, not even just for the money, just to prove that you were better than your quote-unquote friend. Alright, cool. Time goes by. We get to Rocky IV. And then he just continues being a dick. You know, you get to see Ivan Drago. They wanted to have an expedition. You know, the Russians want to have an expedition with Rocky Balboa. Cool. Apollo's like, no, you gotta fight me instead. And during their talks, yeah, Apollo does insult them. Now that, though, is not so much him being an asshole. That's just for show, which the Russians didn't know. Would have probably helped if he said that. But during his, training session, and while he's watching the videos of him and Rocky fighting, why are you insulting your best friend? Rocky's trying to explain to him, like, I think you need to postpone this fight. I don't think you need to. This man is worried about you with, actual reasoning of like, hey, we're old. We ain't what we used to be. And you want to sit here and tell this man, I think you do got brain damage, Rock. It's supposed to be your best friend, and you gonna tell him that? Knowing he probably actually does. Because of some of your fights. The 2 fights he had with you. So some of that is on you. Why are you gonna tell him that? I think you do got brain damage. What kind of best friend are you? And that's nowhere near as bad as it gets. Because when you finally get to that fight, you're still talking crap to your best friend. And then, during the fight, you're getting your ass handed to you. Apollo is bloodied. He's coughing up blood. This man is dying. And what does he tell Rocky? Do not stop this fight, no matter what. Excuse me? What do you mean, no matter what? You want to, run that by me again? And it all comes back to something Apollo told Rocky while they were watching their old fights. If there ain't no war for the warrior to fight, then the warrior might as well be dead, Stallion. Sir, you got a fucking family. You got at least 2 kids. You got a wife. You got a baby mama. We need to get to that pretty soon. The fact you had a kid with someone else who wasn't your wife. You got all this. You have all this money, but yet your ego is just so up there that you can't accept the fact that you're going to lose a fight, so you'd rather die. And what happens? He gets killed, and Rocky doesn't throw in the towel. You forced your best friend not to throw in that towel. You realize what kind of psychological damage that can do to somebody if that was real? Which, of course, this isn't real. This is a movie. But Rocky just sat here and watched his best friend get murdered in front of him because his best friend told him, don't stop the fight. That's going to screw with his head because in his mind, oh my God, I just let my best friend die. Nah, he chose to die. And sir, you just left your kids, and I don't care how much money you got. When it comes to a family, they need both parents. And then you just want to go up and die because of your ego. And that's what it amounts to, is this fucking ego. Oh, but it's gonna get worse. Because not only did you leave this family, this single mother, with your millions of dollars, you cheated on the woman and had another kid, Adonis Creed. We find out in the Creed movies, Mr. Apollo, the American dream, decided to go cheat on his wife and have another kid that he abandoned. What the fuck is wrong with you? So now you are not only leaving your wife behind with those kids, you have this other kid who you decide to say, whatever, I don't need you. Get the fuck off. Are you serious, dude? Okay, cool. You left this family with money. You left them with nothing. And if you see for the Creed movies, Adonis kind of got fucked up a bit now, didn't he? And this all comes back to Creed, to Apollo Creed, who is the biggest asshole in the Rocky films. There isn't a bigger one out there than Apollo Creed. Think about that. Thanks for watching.